The Defiant drifted through the darkness of deep space, her hull gleaming dull against the distant starlight. To any observer, she appeared slow and ungainly, a testament to humanity's first tentative steps into interstellar warfare. Commander Isabella Blackwood stood at the bridge's observation window, her reflection ghosting against the reinforced plexiglass as she watched the distant stars. Another transmission from the Zalaxian fleet commander, Lieutenant Nora Hassan, reported from her communications station, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display. "There, laughing at us again." Isabella's jaw tightened, but she maintained her composure. The Zalaxians had been shadowing the Defiant for 3 days now, their sleek crystalline ships darting around her like predatory fish circling wounded prey. Their transmissions had grown increasingly mocking, filled with chittering sounds their translators rendered as derisive laughter. "Let them laugh," Isabella replied, turning to face her bridge crew. Status report. Rajan Patel looked up from his engineering station, his fingers dancing across the haptic interface. "All systems nominal, Commander. The new quantum drive is running at optimal efficiency, despite what our friends out there might think." A slight smile played across his features. They have no idea what they're looking at. The Defiant was humanity's best-kept secret, a test bed for technologies that defied conventional understanding. While her exterior suggested a lumbering giant, her interior housed innovations that even most of Earth's military leadership didn't fully comprehend. Rajan had helped design many of them, and Isabella had handpicked him for this mission, specifically because he understood the ship's true potential. Multiple ships approaching, Commander, Tactical Officer James Wong announced, his voice steady despite the tension evident in his posture. "Zalaxian attack formation Delta 7, if their previous patterns hold true." The alien vessels appeared on the main view screen, their crystalline structures refracting starlight in beautiful but deadly patterns. Each ship was easily twice the size of the Defiant, their weapon systems glowing with barely contained energy. "They're broadcasting again," Hassan reported, her fingers brushing across her console. Translating now. A harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge. "Primitive humans, your presence in this sector amuses us. Your vessel moves like a wounded grazing beast. Allow us to demonstrate true space warfare capabilities. Perhaps then you will understand your place in the galaxy." Isabella exchanged glances with Rajan, who nodded almost imperceptibly. They had anticipated this moment, had planned for it extensively. The Zalaxians' arrogance would be their undoing. "Tactical analysis?" Isabella asked, settling into her command chair. Wong's fingers flew across his station. 3 heavy cruisers, 6 escort vessels. Their shields are powered but not fully engaged. They're not taking us seriously, Commander. "Good." Isabella leaned forward, her voice dropping to a quiet but commanding tone. "All hands, battle stations. Rajan, begin power redistribution sequence Alpha. Lieutenant Hassan, prepare to record everything. The Admiralty will want a full account of what happens next." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, their movements betraying none of the experimental nature of their vessel. Warning lights pulsed softly as the ship's systems reconfigured themselves according to Rajan's carefully crafted protocols. The Zalaxian ships drew closer, their formation tightening as they prepared to surround the Defiant. Their next transmission came loaded with even more derision. "We will disable your vessel now. Try not to damage it too severely in your panicked response." Isabella smiled. "Mr. Wong, target the lead vessel's propulsion matrix. Rajan, on my mark, activate the quantum field generators." The bridge hummed with building energy as hidden systems came online. Panels throughout the ship's hull began to shift and change, revealing weapon ports and sensor arrays that had been completely invisible moments before. "They're scanning us," Hassan reported, excitement creeping into her voice, reading confusion in their transmissions. "Now they notice," Rajan muttered, his hands flying across his controls. "Quantum field generators at full power, Commander. Ready on your order." Isabella stood, her uniform crisp and perfect, as she faced the view screen. "Send one final transmission, Lieutenant Hassan. Message begins. The primitive humans accept your challenge. Let us show you what slow and steady can really do." Message ends. The Zalaxian ships had halted their approach, their previous confidence giving way to uncertainty as their sensors revealed more and more of the Defiant's true nature. But it was too late for them to retreat. "All hands," Isabella commanded, her voice ringing with authority. "Show them exactly what humanity is capable of." The battle was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Defiant's transformation left the Zalaxian fleet momentarily stunned. Their crystalline ships hung motionless in space, their previous formation frozen in what Isabella recognized as shocked hesitation. The silence on the bridge was electric as her crew waited for her command. "Quantum field stabilized," Rajan reported, his voice carrying a hint of pride. "The metamaterial hull is responding perfectly. They're trying to scan us again, but all they're getting is ghost readings." Isabella watched the alien ships on the view screen, noting how their weapon ports flickered with uncertain energy. The Zalaxians had never encountered technology like this before, a ship that could fundamentally alter its physical properties at will. The experimental quantum field generators weren't just shields. They were reality manipulators on a localized scale. Multiple targeting locks detected. Wom announced, his fingers dancing across his tactical display. They're attempting to coordinate their weapon systems, but the quantum field is disrupting their targeting algorithms. "Show them why they should have paid more attention," Isabella ordered, her voice steady. "Initiate attack pattern Theta 3. The Defiant's response was immediate and devastating. What had appeared to be a slow, lumbering vessel suddenly executed a maneuver that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. The quantum field generators didn't just protect the ship, they altered the very laws of physics around it. "First volley ready," Wom reported. Novel particle cannons charged and locked. Fire. The novel particle beams lanced out from the Defiant's concealed weapon ports, their energy signature unlike anything the Zalaxians had encountered before. The beams struck the lead cruiser's shields, and instead of dissipating, they seemed to phase through them entirely. Direct hit, Wong confirmed with satisfaction. Their shield harmonics can't adapt to the particle configuration. We've disabled their primary weapon arrays. Rajan's hands flew across his console as he monitored the ship's systems. Power distribution holding steady. "The quantum core is performing beyond specifications, Commander. We can maintain this level of output for several hours if needed." The Zalaxian fleet erupted into chaos. Their tight formation dissolved as ships began taking evasive action, their previous coordination shattered by the unexpected display of human technological prowess. Their transmissions, once mocking, now carried a very different tone. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," Hassan reported, struggling to keep the excitement from her voice. "Multiple distress calls. They're warning others about us." Isabella allowed herself a small smile. "Let them. Humanity has been silent about its capabilities for too long. It's time they learned what we can really do." She turned to Wong. "Target their propulsion systems. Disable, don't destroy." We want them to carry tales of this encounter back to their fleet." The battle continued to unfold like a deadly dance. The Defiant moved with impossible grace, its quantum field allowing it to execute maneuvers that defied conventional physics. Each shot from its novel particle cannons found its mark with devastating precision, systematically stripping away the Zalaxian ship's capabilities without destroying them outright. "Commander," Rajan called out, his voice tight with concentration, "I'm detecting power fluctuations in their crystal matrix drives. They're trying to adapt their technology to counter our quantum field." "Clever," Isabella muttered. "But not clever enough. Initiate countermeasure protocol Beta 7. The Defiant's hull began to pulse with subtle waves of energy, each wave carrying a different quantum signature. The Zalaxians' attempts to adapt were met with an ever-changing defense that rendered their calculations useless moments after they made them. "They're breaking formation," Wong announced. 3 ships attempting to retreat. The others are maintaining attack stance, but their weapon systems are showing signs of stress from attempting to penetrate our defenses. Isabella studied the tactical display, noting the patterns of the remaining Zalaxian ships. Their movements were becoming desperate, less coordinated. Fear had replaced arrogance in their tactics. "Status of the quantum core," she asked, glancing at Rajan. "Operating at 70% capacity," he replied, pride evident in his voice. "We've barely tapped its potential, Commander. The adaptive algorithms are learning from each engagement, improving our efficiency in real time." "Duh, General, though I almost feel sorry for them." Nazarov's weathered face showed a grim smile. "They spent so many years ensuring we couldn't build a fleet to match theirs. They never considered we might build something better." As the conversation ended, Rhea approached with a final update. "All ships report ready, General. Ghost Fleet Elements 1 through 7 are prepared for immediate departure." Santos took a moment to survey the chamber as the massive ships rose one by one into Titan's atmosphere. Each vessel represented countless hours of secret labor, banned research, and carefully hidden resources. The Alliance had thought they were slowly binding humanity in silken threads of regulations and restrictions. Instead, they had forced humanity to become more creative, more innovative, and ultimately more dangerous than they could have imagined. "Send word to all colony commanders," Santos ordered. "Tell them to activate their emergency protocols and prepare for independent operations. The Alliance thinks they're going to isolate our worlds from each other. They're about to learn that every human colony is a fortress, and every civilian ship they've dismissed as harmless may be something else entirely." Above them, the ghost ships vanished from visual and sensor detection as they engaged their stealth systems. Hundreds of vessels, representing the largest single fleet ever assembled by humanity, disappeared into the void between worlds. The Alliance's carefully laid plans assumed they would have weeks to implement their strategy of isolation and containment. Instead, humanity's counterstrike was already in motion. "You know," Rhea said quietly as they watched the last ship vanish, "my grandmother used to tell me stories about the phoenix, a bird that rose from its own ashes, more powerful than before. I never really understood why we named the project after it until now." Santos nodded. "The Alliance thought they were gradually burning away our strength, our independence. Instead, they were tempering us, forcing us to become something new." She turned to her command station as reports began flowing in from ships taking up their strike positions. "Humanity is about to rise from the ashes of their betrayal, and the galaxy will never be the same." The pieces were in place. The Ghost Fleet was deployed. Now they simply had to wait for the Alliance to make their final move, unaware that they had already lost the initiative. Project Phoenix wasn't just a military program. It was humanity's declaration that they would never again allow themselves to be at another species' mercy. The next few hours would change the course of galactic history, and Isabella Santos intended to ensure that change favored Earth. The Alliance flagship Eternal Dominion hung in high orbit above Centauri Prime, its crystalline hull gleaming in the light of 3 suns. High Admiral Kexry of the Veleran species stood on his command deck. Multiple eye stalks focused on tactical displays, showing the largest Alliance fleet gathering in 50 years. What he didn't see, what none of his advanced sensors detected, were the ghost ships already surrounding his position. Send the ultimatum to Earth's government, he ordered, his translator converting his clicking speech to standard Alliance language. They have 1 planetary rotation to submit to Alliance protection, or will be forced to take action to preserve galactic stability. The message was sent. Seconds later, instead of the expected fearful response, every display on his bridge went dark. What's happening? Kexry demanded, his eye stalks writhing in agitation. Unknown Admiral, his sensor officer reported. We're detecting some kind of quantum field interference across all frequencies. The officer never finished his sentence. Space itself seemed to tear open around the Alliance fleet as humanity's ghost ships materialized from nowhere, their obsidian hulls absorbing both light and sensor waves. Aboard the ESS Nemesis, Commander Frost's voice was cold and clear. All ships, execute Operation Thanatos. Fire at will. The Ghost Fleet's first strike was devastating. Gravitic lance beams, technology the Alliance had thought impossible for centuries, cut through the crystalline hulls of Alliance vessels like light through fog. The Eternal Dominion's shields, supposedly the most advanced in known space, didn't even register the attacks before failing. This is impossible. Kexry screeched as his flagship's systems began failing. Their technology level was monitored, contained. On the Nemesis's bridge, Diana Frost watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Transmit to all Alliance vessels. This is Commander Frost of Earth's Defense Force. Your fleets are surrounded, your technological advantage is nullified, and your leadership has grossly miscalculated. Surrender or be destroyed. Commander! Hassan's voice carried a note of urgency, detecting massive energy buildup in the Zalaxian flagship. They're preparing to deploy some kind of temporal weapon. Rajan? Isabella questioned, knowing her engineer would understand the implied query. Already on it, he responded, his fingers becoming a blur across his console. Quantum core transitioning to temporal defense mode. Whatever they're planning, we can match it. The space between the ships began to distort as the Zalaxian weapon discharged, sending waves of temporal energy rippling through the battlefield. But instead of trapping the Defiant in a time dilation field as intended, the human ship's quantum field absorbed and redirected the energy. Temporal attack neutralized. Rajan announced triumphantly. Better yet, we've harvested their weapons signature, adding it to our defensive matrices now. The Zalaxian fleet's coordinated attack began to falter as ship after ship found their advanced weapons rendered useless against the Defiant's evolving defenses. The human vessel's responses became increasingly precise, each counter-attack more devastating than the last. Their flagship is dropping out of formation, Wong reported. Multiple systems failures detected across their fleet. They're losing coordination. Isabella watched the tactical display with intense focus. Now we press our advantage. Target their secondary command ships. Let's see how well they fight without their command structure. The Defiant's particle beams lanced out with surgical precision, each shot finding its mark with devastating effect. The Zalaxian fleet's formation began to crumble as their command ships lost power and drifted helplessly in space. They're broadcasting a retreat signal, Hassan announced, unable to keep the pride from her voice. "Let them go," Isabella ordered. "But make sure our sensors record everything. The data from this engagement will be invaluable." As the Zalaxian ships began their withdrawal, Rajan's console erupted with new information. "Commander, the Quantum Core's adaptive algorithms. They've made another leap. We're seeing integration patterns we never thought possible. The ship is learning, evolving with each engagement." Isabella nodded thoughtfully. "And so are we, Rajan. So are we." She turned to address her bridge crew. "Well done, everyone. But stay alert. Something tells me this isn't over. The Zalaxians aren't known for accepting defeat gracefully." The stars seemed to shine brighter as the enemy fleet retreated, but Isabella knew this was just the beginning. The true test of humanity's resolve and the Defiant's capabilities was yet to come. 2 days after the massive battle, the Defiant maintained its position in contested space, but the atmosphere aboard had shifted dramatically. Intelligence reports filtered in through encrypted channels, painting a disturbing picture of the Zalaxian response to their defeats. "They're mobilizing their entire 7th Fleet," Hassan reported, her voice tense as she analyzed the incoming data. "Reports indicate they're stripping defenses from 3 star systems to gather enough ships." Isabella stood at her tactical display, studying the movement patterns of the Zalaxian forces. Beside her, Rajan worked feverishly at his station, implementing the lessons learned from their previous encounters. "The Quantum Core's evolution has exceeded all projections," he announced, excitement barely contained in his voice. "The integration of Zalaxian temporal technology has opened up possibilities we never imagined." "Commander," we cooled. A violent shudder ran through the ship, cutting him off mid-sentence. Warning alerts flashed across every console on the bridge. "Multiple quantum ruptures detected," Wong shouted. "They're using some kind of new, faster-than-light technology. Ships emerging. Everywhere." The space around the Defiant erupted with light as hundreds of Zalaxian vessels materialized simultaneously, forming a perfect sphere around the human ship. Their crystalline hulls pulsed with an ominous new energy signature that even their advanced sensors struggled to analyze. "They've adapted their entire fleet," Rajan whispered, his eyes wide as he studied the readings. "They've incorporated quantum technology into their ship's crystal matrices. They're trying to beat us at our own game." Isabella's expression remained calm, though her mind raced with calculations and possibilities. "How many ships, Mr. Wong?" 327, Commander. They'd brought everything they have." A transmission cut through their communications, and the face of the Zalaxian Supreme Commander appeared once more on their main screen. This time, there was no rage in those compound eyes, only cold determination. "Human vessel," the alien's voice resonated with new authority. "Your technological prowess has earned our respect. But now you face the full might of an awakened Zalaxian empire. Surrender, and your innovations will be preserved in our archives." Isabella's response was to turn to Rajan. "How long until the core completes its current evolution cycle?" 3 minutes, he replied, his fingers dancing across his console. "But, Commander, even with our latest adaptations, these numbers..." "Numbers don't win battles, Rajan. Innovation does." She turned back to the screen. "Supreme Commander, we decline your generous offer. Instead, let us show you humanity's greatest strength, our ability to surpass our own limitations." The battle that followed would be remembered in both human and Zalaxian history as a turning point in warfare. The Defiant's quantum field generators engaged in ways their designers had never imagined possible, creating overlapping fields of altered space-time that turn the very fabric of reality into a weapon. They're trying to synchronize their quantum fields. Rajan shouted over the sound of straining systems, attempting to create a resonance cascade that would tear us apart. Invert the field harmonics, Isabella commanded. Use their own synchronization against them. Wong, target their field generators in sequence. Hassan, broadcast these targeting solutions to all their ships. Let them see exactly how we're going to beat them. The Defiant danced through space like a phantom, its movements defying conventional physics. Each attack by the Zalaxian fleet was met with a counter that seemed to anticipate their strategies before they executed them. The quantum core, now operating at levels that exceeded its theoretical limits, turned their enemy's greatest strength into a devastating weakness. Their synchronized fields are creating a feedback loop, Rajan reported with growing excitement. The crystal matrices can't handle the quantum resonance. They're starting to fracture. One by one, Zalaxian ships began to power down, their crystal hulls darkening as their advanced technology turned against them. The perfect sphere of their formation began to break apart as ships lost power and drifted out of position. "Commander," Hassan called out, "I'm detecting unusual communications between their ships. They're sharing research data, scientific observations about our technology. They're studying us even as we defeat them." Isabella smiled. "Good. They're finally learning the right lesson. This isn't about military might. It's about the advancement of knowledge." She turned to her tactical officer. "Mr. Wong, target their flagship's primary systems. Let's give them one final demonstration." The Defiant's weapons fired, but instead of destroying the Zalaxian flagship, the particle beams interfaced with its crystal matrix in a way that caused the entire ship to momentarily phase out of normal space-time. When it reappeared, all its systems had been reset to baseline functioning. "Send to all Zalaxian ships," Isabella ordered. "Message begins. We could destroy your fleet. Instead, we offer you a choice. Retreat and take with you the knowledge that humanity is ready to share our innovations with those who approach us as equals, not conquerors." The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. Then, one by one, the remaining Zalaxian ships began to power down their weapons. The Supreme Commander's face appeared on their screen once more, but this time there was something new in those alien eyes: respect. "Your species," the translator rendered its clicks and whistles, "has proven far more fascinating than we anticipated. Perhaps there is much we could learn from each other." As the Zalaxian fleet began an orderly withdrawal, Rajan's console beeped with a final analysis. "Commander, the quantum core's evolution during this battle. It's revolutionary. We've achieved technological breakthroughs that would have taken decades of research." Isabella nodded, watching the enemy ships retreat. "And they know it. We haven't just won a battle. We've changed the entire dynamic of human-Zalaxian relations." She turned to her crew, pride evident in her expression. "Well done, everyone. Now, let's prepare our report for the Admiralty. I have a feeling this is just the beginning of a very interesting new chapter in human history." 1 month after the decisive battle, the Defiant orbited a neutral space station where representatives from both species had gathered. The ship's quantum core hummed with newly refined power, its evolution having continued long after the fighting ceased. "Another diplomatic transmission from the Zalaxian Science Council," Hassan announced, her tone reflecting the strange new reality they found themselves in. They're requesting additional data on quantum field harmonics. Isabella stood at her familiar spot by the observation window, watching as Zelaxian research vessels conducted authorized scans of the Defiant. Their crystalline ships now moved with cautious respect rather than their former arrogance. "Rajan," she called to her engineer, who hadn't left his station in days. "What's your assessment of their latest technical proposals?" "Fascinating, Commander," he replied, his eyes bright with intellectual excitement. "Their crystal matrix technology, when properly integrated with our quantum field theory, creates possibilities we never imagined. They're brilliant engineers. They just needed the right perspective." The bridge crew had settled into their new role as half warriors, half diplomats. The Defiant, once seen as a threat, had become a symbol of technological cooperation between the two species. Multiple ships emerging from hyperspace, one reported suddenly, his tactical display lighting up with new contacts. Zelaxian signatures. But these are different. These are from the outer territories. Isabella's expression tightened. The outer territories of the Zelaxian Empire had rejected the peace overtures, viewing cooperation with humans as a sign of weakness. They'd spent weeks gathering forces, determined to restore their species' honor through combat rather than collaboration. "How many?" she asked, already moving toward her command chair. 50 capital ships. Over 200 support vessels," Wong replied. "They're running hot, weapons charged, and shields at maximum." Before Isabella could respond, another alert sounded. Hassan's eyes widened as she checked her communications display. "Commander, the local Zelaxian fleet is moving to intercept. They're positioning themselves between us and the outer territory forces." On the main screen, the situation unfolded like a tactical simulation. The research vessels they'd been working with for the past month were now forming a defensive screen around the Defiant, their crystal hulls gleaming with newly modified quantum technology. "Incoming transmission," Hassan reported, from both fleets. The screen split, showing two very different Zelaxian commanders. On one side, the familiar face of their former enemy turned ally. On the other, a battle-scared veteran whose compound eyes blazed with zealous determination. "The human vessel is under our protection," the local commander declared. "They have earned the right to share knowledge with our people. Stand down." "You are corrupted by their influence," the outer territory commander responded. "We will cleanse this dishonor with fire." Isabella exchanged glances with her crew before stepping forward. "Rajan, what's the status of that project you've been working on with the Science Council?" A smile crossed her engineer's face. "Ready for field testing, Commander. The merged quantum crystal matrix is stable. We can extend our field to protect the entire Allied fleet." "Do it," Isabella ordered. "Let's show our new friends what true cooperation can achieve." The Defiant's quantum core pulsed with unprecedented power as it synchronized with the crystal matrices of the Allied Zelaxian ships. Energy fields merged and amplified each other, creating a defensive network that made the combined fleet virtually invulnerable. The outer territory forces opened fire, their weapons blazing across space with enough power to shatter planets. But where their energy beams met the merged defensive field, they simply ceased to exist, converted into harmless quantum fluctuations. Allied ships are reporting successful field integration, Rajan announced triumphantly. The combined technology is performing beyond all projections. We're not just sharing our advances, we're creating entirely new ones together. The battle that followed was brief but spectacular. The outer territory fleet found themselves facing technology they couldn't comprehend, not just human innovation, but human and Zelaxian creativity working in perfect harmony. Their weapons were useless, their tactics obsolete against defenses that adapted faster than they could attack. Their withdrawing, Wong reported after less than an hour of failed assault attempts. All outer territory ships are returning to hyperspace. Isabella nodded, but her attention was on the broader implications of what they'd achieved. Hassan, open a channel to both fleets. When the communications were established, she addressed not just the ships around them, but the future of both species. Today, we've proven something greater than military superiority. We've shown that our greatest strength lies not in standing alone, but in working together. The universe is vast and largely unknown. We'll go much further exploring it as allies than as enemies. The response came from the Zalaxian Science Council, their message translated with new precision thanks to their combined technological efforts. The humans speak truth. Today marks the beginning of a new era for both our peoples. As celebrations erupted across both fleets, Rajan's console beeped with yet another breakthrough. "Commander," he called out, his voice filled with wonder, "the merged quantum crystal matrix. It's opening up possibilities we never dreamed of. FTL travel, energy generation, even terraforming. Everything we thought we knew about physics is being rewritten." Isabella smiled, watching as human and Zalaxian ships maneuvered together in space, their once incompatible technologies now working in perfect synchronization. That's the real victory, isn't it? Not defeating an enemy, but turning them into partners in discovery. The Defiant continued its orbit around the space station, no longer just a warship, but a symbol of something far more powerful, the moment when two species learned that their greatest achievements would come not through conflict, but through cooperation. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if illuminating the path to a future neither humans nor Zalaxians could have imagined on their own. The slow ship that had once been mocked had not just changed the outcome of a war, it had changed the course of two civilizations. And as Isabella looked out at the combined fleet, she knew that this was just the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure. The end.